Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of the 12-Ounce Sports Update, live here on 12-Ounce Sports and Dingo TV, Channel 217. Yours truly, Captain Lou, in the chair with you tonight, getting you caught up on what happened in the world of the NFL in week number 3 yesterday, Sunday. We'll get you set up with a doubleheader tonight in the NFL on Monday Night Football, starting in about 45 minutes. Then, of course, we're going to give you the complete rundown where your team stand right now in Major League Baseball. 1 week to go. Welcome again here to the 12-Ounce Sports Update. Captain Lou here with you. We've got 4 teams right now sitting at 3-0. Pittsburgh, Minnesota, Kansas City, and Seattle. Seattle made easy work of Miami yesterday without Tua Tagovailoa, and his backup Skylar Thompson got knocked out. And so Tim Boyle had to come to the rescue, and he did not quite do that. So the Seattle Seahawks, they are riding high in the NFC West with a 3-0 record, a 2-game lead over Arizona, San Francisco, and the Rams. Pittsburgh with a big win over the previously undefeated Chargers of Los Angeles, 20-10. Justin Herbert got knocked out of that game, re-aggravated an ankle injury, but take nothing away from the Steelers. They do the best thing they know how, and that's win. And Justin Fields and the Pittsburgh Steelers are now 3-0. How about Minnesota? Another convincing win. One of the top teams in all of the NFL. They made it look pretty easy against the Houston Texans, another team that was previously undefeated. They won that one, so they're leading the NFC North by a game over Detroit and over Green Bay. Both of those teams at 2-1. And finally, Kansas City. They find another way to win. They're winning ugly. They're winning close, but they're winning. They defeated Atlanta last night, 22-17 on the road. So they're now 3-0. So 4 teams at 3-0 as we get through week number 3. Buffalo looking to become the next 3-0 team as they take on Jacksonville. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. We talked about the Lions. They got back on track with a big win on the road against Arizona. Another win that may not have looked that pretty, but they grounded and they pounded their way. Plus a touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown and a little dipsy-do hook and ladder play to Jahmyr Gibbs. They edged the Arizona Cardinals 20-13. They go to 2-1 to keep pace with the undefeated Minnesota Vikings. The Eagles, they won what I call a slosh fest over the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people thought that was going to be a high-scoring game, present company included. Well, it ended up being, I think it was a 15-12 win. So the Eagles now are all of a sudden 2-1 and looking pretty good in the NFC East. And how about Malik Willis leading the Green Bay Packers to 2 straight wins, including a win in his old stomping grounds in Tennessee against the Titans. The Titans look like an absolute mess. Take nothing away from the Packers. They win again, so they're now 2-1 as they look to keep pace with the Lions and the Minnesota Vikings, setting up a big game next week for the Vikings and the Packers. Should be a dandy. How about the Rams? They shocked the San Francisco 49ers. The outcome maybe not a shock, but the way they went about it, trailing by 10 points in the fourth quarter, they made the comeback, and they edged the 49ers with a last-second field goal, 27-24 to get their first win. They're 1-2. San Francisco falls to 1-2. Both these teams injury-riddled already in the young season, but they find themselves 2 games back along with the Arizona Cardinals as they are chasing the Seattle Seahawks, who won convincingly, as we mentioned, over Miami. Next Monday night, it's going to be Seattle and Detroit at Ford Field in Detroit. That is going to be one heck of a game. How about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the New Orleans Saints? We talked about them coming back to earth as Tampa Bay got humbled at home by Denver, of all teams. Bo Nix looked pretty impressive last night with his arm and with his legs as they won their first game of the year. They're 1-2 as Tampa now falls to 2-1. The Saints fall to 2-1 as well. We talked about that slosh fest. They lost to Philadelphia, so they're 2-1 as well. Cleveland, there's a team that I can't figure out. We're going to get more in depth on that on Wednesday on the Captain Lou Extravaganza. They got embarrassed by the Giants. Yes, they got embarrassed at home by the Giants, 21-15, a game they should have won. So they're now 1-2. The Raiders, Wow. They got boat raced by the Carolina Panthers and by Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton getting his first start, replacing Bryce Young at the helm at quarterback for the Carolina Panthers. He is the first quarterback this season with over 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. So leave it to the old guy, the Red Rifle, to get the job done for the Carolina Panthers. They get their first win. Vegas, they go to 1-2, and it sounds like there might be a coach or a quarterback change in Las Vegas. We talked about tonight's doubleheader. It's the Jaguars going to Buffalo to take on the Bills. Right at this moment, the line keeps flip-flopping. It went from 4.5 this afternoon. You heard Philly Pete say on a previous show on primetime, it was 5.5. I just checked literally 30 seconds before we came on the air. The line has dropped back down to 5. So anywhere from 4.5 to 5.5 with the Jaguars, a road dog at Buffalo. That's going to start at 7:15. Then we got the Cincinnati Bengals. They're 0-2, looking to get their first win, taking on the Washington Commanders. They are 1-1. That ought to be a kind of an interesting game there. Cincinnati, right now, a 7-point home favorite to get their first victory in the jungle against the Washington Commanders. All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll take a look at college football and, of course, Major League Baseball. The last week of the regular season, we've got some very, very interesting pennant races and wild card races. We'll go through that right after this here on the 12-Ounce Sports Update. I want to remind you, too, that tonight's 12-Ounce Sports Update is brought to you by tickets at 12ouncesports.com. If you want to go to any of these exciting pennant race games that we're going to talk about here momentarily, or next week's college football or the NFL week number 4, make sure you go to 12ouncesports.com/tickets. We are a ticket broker. You will not see the fees that you see at some of these other secondary markets. That's tickets. That's 12ouncesports.com/tickets. All right, Major League Baseball standings. We talked about it before we went to the break. There are some heated wild card races. These are the most exciting ones. Let's check out the American League first. The Detroit Tigers, 27-11 since August 8th. We've been talking about it here on the network for the last month. It seemed like a pipe dream about 5 weeks ago, but all of a sudden, Detroit, the hottest team in the last 30 days at 27-11. They are now 1 game ahead of Minnesota and tied with Kansas City for the second wild card spot. So Detroit with 6 games left. They've got 3 with Tampa Bay, and they've got 3 with the Chicago White Sox, who are 1 game away from setting the all-time record for futility in Major League Baseball. They sit at 120 losses. Also, Seattle is 2 games behind Detroit and Kansas City. So 4 teams looking at 2 wild card spots. We've got Detroit with the potential Cy Young Award winner, the odds-on favorite, Tariq Skubal, going tomorrow night, and if needed, on game 162. So it'll be interesting to see who will end up with those. And a reminder that both Kansas City and Minnesota own the tiebreakers against the Tigers, and Minnesota owns the tiebreaker against Kansas City. Should they end up tied for the last spot, should Detroit leapfrog them. But Detroit 1 game up on Minnesota, 2 up on Seattle. Kansas City tied with Detroit as well. Baltimore with the first wild card position. They're not going anywhere. The New York Yankees have clinched that division, and Houston pretty much has the West locked up as well. In the National League, in the wild card race, the Mets and the Diamondbacks right now are tied for the 2nd and 3rd spot in those wild card chases. Now it's looking like that the San Diego Padres will have a playoff spot locked up. They're 3 games behind the Dodgers in the National League West, but an all-important series starting tomorrow between the Braves and the Mets. The Mets with that 2-game lead. If the Mets win 2 out of 3, they lock it up because they'll have the tiebreaker advantage. The important fact in this one, Chris Sale is on full rest, will not be going for the Braves until Wednesday. So they're going to keep him, and instead of starting him Tuesday and potentially on Sunday. So we'll keep an eye on that. The Braves and the Mets are fighting for that last spot, but also the Diamondbacks too are only they're 2 games ahead of the Braves as well. So really exciting wild card situation going on in Major League Baseball. Quickly, as we mentioned, the Yankees are 2 games ahead of Cleveland for the top spot in the American League and getting that opening round bye. The Dodgers are 3 games up on San Diego in the NL West. An interesting fact on this, these 2 teams have a 3-game series. So the Dodgers aren't yet in the clear to win the division. And watch out for the Padres. Since Memorial Day, they have the best record in all of Major League Baseball. So keep an eye on that. And as well as L.A. on top of San Diego by 3 games. They are on top of Philadelphia by 1 game for the best record in the National League. And again, what that means is they get an opening round bye. They don't have to play in the wild card round. And remember, there is no game 163 anymore like there used to be in Major League Baseball. In the last couple of years, they've instituted a 3-game series at the site of the higher seed. So keep that in mind as the baseball playoffs start a week from tomorrow. And it's going to be an interesting race right through till Sunday. We'll keep you up to date all week right here on 12 Ounce Sports. Real quick, let's go over to college football this past weekend. Michigan with a big win over USC, silencing some doubters. They did it on the ground, including that game-winning drive that resulted in a 4th down and goal Mullins touchdown with 37 seconds left. They moved up from 18th to 12th with that win. USC in their first Big Ten game ever falls to 0-1 in the Big Ten. They head back home. How about Utah and Tennessee with big wins against Oklahoma State and Oklahoma, respectively? Oklahoma's first SEC game, it was at home, and Tennessee with a big win on the road. They're a force to be reckoned with as well. Taking a quick look at the top 10 in the Associated Press poll, we got Texas number 1, as we mentioned, Georgia 2, Ohio State 3, 4 goes to Alabama, 5 Tennessee, Ole Miss is at 6, Miami up to 7, Oregon 8, Penn State 9, and Utah with that big win over Oklahoma State in a battle of ranked teams. They're at number 10. Hey, don't forget my latest article on the Big Ten top 5 and what's going on, the weekly goings on in the Big Ten will be published on 12 Ounce Sports a little bit later on tonight. All right, that's going to do it here for the 12 Ounce Sports Update. Don't forget again tonight, there are 2 games on Monday Night Football tonight. Buffalo will be hosting Jacksonville. That's going to start in roughly a half an hour at 7:15. Buffalo right now a 5-point favorite. That line keeps fluctuating. Like I said, it goes up by the second. It was at 4.5 earlier today, and then it jumped up to 5.5. Right now, it is at 5. And in the nightcap, if you will, Cincinnati with a 7-point. They are a 7-point favorite at home, looking for their first win of the year against the Washington Commanders, who are 1-1. Jacksonville, by the way, at 0-2, looking to get their first win, and Buffalo looking to join the ranks of Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Kansas City, and Seattle as the only undefeated teams remaining. And one more time, don't forget, pennant races in Major League Baseball. They're heating up. The wild card spots are up for grabs. Detroit with a 1-game lead over Minnesota for the 3rd and final wild card spot, actually tied with Kansas City. And the Braves and the Diamondbacks are 2 games up on the Atlanta Braves for the final playoff spot. And the divisional leaders right now, Houston, Cleveland, and the Yankees in the American League, the Phillies, the Milwaukee Brewers, and of course, the Los Angeles Dodgers in the National League. All right, that's going to do it. A reminder, join me on Wednesday for another edition of the Captain Lou Extravaganza. Maybe I'll get a winning week of picks on the Captain Lou 6-Pack Challenge. Who knows? We got a lot of great programming. Stay tuned. Check the local listings right here on 12 Ounce Sports for the latest, including Prime Time with Philly Pete every night at 6 o'clock. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. This reminder, keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. Until next time, so long. Have a nice night.